I'm going to call it a conversation, a chit chat, a yakety yak with Jaime Shine, my co-host for today. So good afternoon and thanks for being here today for our second live audio event on LinkedIn. I'm Sue Ann with Right Mix for Business, and in case you didn't know, the show is The Marketing Mirror because everything you do reflects your business and brand. I'm so excited to introduce Jaime Shine of Clearly Conveyed Communications as today's special co-host. Are you there, Jaime?
I'm here.
Are you ready to go?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Great. And Lisa's joined us. Thanks, Lisa. We always love to see you and hear your great insights. Up, she's already ready to jump in. I'm going to add her to the speakers because I know that Lisa always has something good to offer. So I'm really excited to introduce Jaime, and I think you'll find that we had this fantastic pre-planning meeting to collaborate what we'll be doing on today's show. And it was fantastic. I think you'll find that there's going to be some really interesting and surprising items that we want to bring to the forefront today and that we want to talk about. But feel free to ask any questions before, during, or after the show. Make sure you raise your hand if you want to join in to add your thoughts or if you want to have questions out loud rather than in text. And one of the main reasons that we're doing this show is to get your input, your ideas, and to be open to the discussions so that we can hear other people's thoughts and answer questions for people as well. So, before we jump in, I want to give you a quick review of the premiere episode from last week because I think it sets the scene for today's topics. The premise for my chat with co-host Joie was that social media is experiencing a total shakeup. It feels a little chaotic and a little volatile. So I think it's time that we start thinking about rethinking and maybe even revamping everything we're thinking and doing on social media. We don't want to be, as Mark Schaefer put it in the quote that I read last show, sleepwalking with our social strategies and execution. And a few other topics that we talked about include the social media landscape again and how volatile it is, not only the platforms, but just the whole atmosphere around social. Also, how important adapting your social media strategy is right now, because that's crucial to your business. And how political discourse interrupts social media, making things more confusing. And we offered a few ideas on how to take care of that. And Lisa has a new article out on Medium that I'm going to add into the post I'm doing about last show to talk more about that too. Also, shifts and changes are impacting social media due to the changing perceptions and new ways people are consuming content and integrating digital into their lifestyles. I think Joey said it's like their social media is kind of melded into their hand through their cell phone, like as a 24/7 kind of thing. But we also talked about how balancing automation with authenticity is essential for your successful social engagement. And then we said, hey, ultimately, we think it's time for a reevaluation in 2024. We think 2024 indicates it's time for a social media overhaul. So you can listen to the entire conversation, which is quite a mix and melding of thoughts from Joey and other contributors like Jaime and Lisa on Spotify, on the Marketing Mirror, or other podcast platforms if you prefer. And as I said, I'm working on an article to support that chat because I think I want to add more resources for many of those topics. And I do want to encourage you to think through them as you consider overhauling your social media strategy, not only for your business, but for client work if you do that as well. But because this rethinking and revamping of our approach takes time, so you can go a little deeper, you can unlearn a little perhaps, and you can brainstorm for new ideas and all the things. So today I want to offer something usable right away for social media marketing. This is while you're working on your bigger, bolder, brighter new ideas to shake up your social feeds. So we're going to move to the light side of social media marketing. We're going to look at top of funnel social, which is generally for the triple A intent. I call it the triple A because we're looking at attraction, attention, and awareness. We need to attract people to gain their attention and make them aware of us, our business, and our services, products, and so on. So essentially, we're starting with visibility marketing. I think of it sometimes as like PR or goodwill marketing, but no matter the label, you need people to first know about you if you want them to do business with you. And so generally, top of the funnel is about getting it out there and getting seen. Okay, so here we go. To get us off in the right spirit for today's live chat, here's a sweet list of gems I pulled from Joie's input on last week's show. They aren't the nitty gritty things that we covered, but these are gems, and they're more of a framework and a mindset to have when you're working with your social media marketing. I think these are great concepts to jump into today's topics. So Joey's concepts that I love for approaching social media in the current landscape, and I think give us a good framework for today for top of funnel discussions, is that she suggests embracing podcasting and video, so mixed media, to get your unique voice out there and to step into your spotlight. She says participate with what you like and don't with what you don't. You have choices and control. And I love that part of the conversation because she kind of pointed out that people are so emotionally connected with social that sometimes they take it personally, and that might be detrimental to how you approach it and how you feel about it. Also, view social sites, and I think this might be my favorite, you guys. View social sites as a comfortable and friendly coffee shop where you stop to chat and visit with friends. Think that, you can be in and out, or you can linger. She says also don't rely on a single platform to showcase your gifts and talents because we all know that rented land is able to go off the market. Also, share your stories to connect emotionally with people. And I gave you 7 frameworks from Henneke Dustermaat from Enchanting Marketing to give you ways to connect stories to emotionally engage with people. And you can use that even on your social media at that level. And finally, show your creativity. And the grand finale, have fun with it. And the great news is that top of the funnel is the perfect place to have fun as well as experiment with your social content, especially now in a disruptive period that we're in for social platforms, and of course with the injection of AI. So without further ado, let's give today's guest, Jaime Shine, a colleague and longtime marketing pro that helps businesses with writing, marketing, and social media, a warm welcome. Hello again, Jaime, and how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. So I really enjoyed the conversation last week, and I'm looking forward to keeping it going this week.
So exciting, isn't it? I love this stuff. I'm really fascinated with the whole thing. What's kind of funny is that I think it was weird. It was like, and I've been having this, I guess it's been a niggling that things need to be, we need to shake it up. We need to look at things different. And then I saw Mark Schaefer's article and interview, and I was like, what? I'm not the only one thinking that. Maybe I'm on the right track. So today I want to do it a little bit backwards when we start talking about top of funnel content for social. And I want to bring up the topic of CTA. I say CTA all the way, or call to action. And I think that if we start with thinking about a call to action on day one, which none of us did because we didn't know better when we started, we should be using some kind of call to action, I think nearly 100% of the time. And I think you can start with soft CTAs at the top of the funnel, but you should try to include them no matter. So, for example, likes or shares or follow me or read the next blog post on the same topic or visit my blog or visit my YouTube channel. These kind of micro actions are the beginning of inviting that interactivity and engagement with you, but they're often referred to as vanity metrics or soft data. But You guys, I feel they are quite, indeed, quite helpful when you get started, when you're getting started, and at any time along the way, really to help give you some guidelines and indicators for what is resonating with viewers. What's your take, James?
Absolutely. And that's something I've gotten more consistent with. You're right about when we started out. Um, I don't think anybody was consistent with frequent call to actions, but I like how you mentioned you can have soft ones. They don't all have to be selling. Um, but I've seen people have a lot of success with those. And you mentioned the vanity metrics. They kind of gotten a bad rap, but um, I think they serve a purpose. They're not only you, like you said, you can see what your audience is interested in and wants to engage with, but some platforms report on your activity. So if someone likes your post or comments on it, that's actually being shown to people in their network, so it can help you bring fresh eyes on your content or help you grow your own community just by someone engaging with yours, even if they don't share your content. So they definitely have value, even though they kind of have a negative connotation to them.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they're indicators for what you're doing right or wrong. If people are liking the content, sharing the content, responding to you, giving you comments on the content, doesn't that give you some kind of indication or guidelines as to what content is resonating and what people are liking? I think it helps give you direction for social, and especially if it's not you, because you kind of know your business inside and out. But when you're working with client accounts, especially if they're brand new to social, those really, at least in my experience, help guide things to get things off the ground. Lisa, do you have a comment on that? And hi, Miss Eileen Smith. So lovely to see you.
Hi, Suanne. Hi, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I actually accidentally hit the button earlier.
That's okay. We always love to hear from you, Lisa. You always have smart stuff.
Yeah, I was going between spaces over on Twitter and live events here, so I accidentally hit the wrong button.
So now I caught you off guard. What do you think about vanity metrics? Are they useful?
They're slightly useful. I don't have a lot of faith in all the vanity metrics today because they're really changing them up, especially over on Facebook. I don't know if anyone has noticed that.
How so? How so? I don't know, because I think Facebook, I think, is not. I mean, I do get traffic from Facebook, but I don't think I'm very good at Facebook, or that Facebook and I have much of a love affair. What are you seeing?
Well, I've read recently that they've changed it over to family usage and family engagement. So they're changing some of the way that they're measuring the traffic.
I see. Well, that is important too, because I think the algorithms play a part, but I think we have to still stay on track for what we're trying to do. And like I said, I look at the vanity metrics as indicators and guides for me in some respects. But also, I think the big reminder here is that you want to keep pushing those micro actions to get people to engage in one way or another. Maybe that's an even more important main point. Another thing you can do is experiment with a call to action ideas for community building. So, as an example, you can have call to actions for, like, say, join my group, like over there on Buy Me a Coffee, where I'm putting together some smart individuals like yourselves for a cheap thing to start building a community there and have these kind of private discussions to help each other. You can have a CTA for a challenge, or for following your page, or for a webinar. And an interesting thing, I just got some information about the term webinar. I was sharing it with Jamie in our pre planning. And I saw some statistics that the word webinar is one of those things, like we talked about last week, about how the audience and the viewers are understanding these things and viewing things in a different way. And the term webinar isn't getting as good a conversion as if you call it a mastermind or a roundtable or a few other things. Somebody did a study. It was Jay. I can't think of his last name. I did connect with him on LinkedIn, and he did just interview Ann Handley. And then I got an email where he did this study, and it shows that these other terms are getting way more conversion because people are leery, I believe, of the word webinar, thinking it's going to be a sales pitch or it's not going to be. I mean, they're getting desensitized. And I think that's part of what's changing in social.
I think that term historically, I mean, it's second nature to me because I work in a lot of B2B and we've used the term webinar forever, but a lot of people may look at a webinar too as very non-interactive, like a static, someone presenting to an audience just receiving it. There's no interactivity or engagement, so they may not be drawn into that. Like you said, a sales pitch, not a conversation or discussion or any kind of back and forth.
And I think that's the whole difference today in marketing. Like there's a lot of concepts in marketing. I'm old and I've been in it a long time, and I think that some things are still the same as marketing 101 day one. I think there's some tried and true principles to it, but I also think that the whole landscape, especially in the digital realm, has changed it, and social media in particular has changed it. People don't want you to market to them. They want a conversation with your brand. And that makes all the difference, really.
It's a huge change, and it's a change that some brands, especially bigger companies, are still having trouble adapting to. They're still trying to use social as a broadcast mechanism, just another PR or public, release. Like they don't see it as that, and they're trying to push back on that, and it usually doesn't end up working out well for those companies. Whereas you see some smaller brands or smaller businesses really interacting with people in their communities and engaging with them, and the benefits that leads to.
Oh, most definitely. It's sort of like you've got your ear on the pulse, right? And we talked last week too about Brooke Sellas and how she contends that social care and social listening equals competitive advantage in the digital era. And I think she has a really good point. And I've seen some examples with bigger companies with what they've done, and it's amazing. It really is. So for today, let's think, how do we go about organize our social sharing plan? I think one of the coolest ways to do it, especially at top of the funnel, is to use content buckets. I find that content buckets are very helpful to assist with everything you do on social, but you can also start buckets while you're still nailing that deeper strategy, that deeper social strategy to direct to business results, right? Direct to those conversion CTAs later. So right now we want to learn about how, while we're figuring out how to revamp and relearn, we can still start with a plan of attack going forward, starting with these, what I call we'll start with fun buckets. And fun buckets are a great source for social fodder, I think, and sometimes an opportunity to add a little bit more personal spice to your project. So some of the things that you might have already heard of, but I think offer a way to approach things uniquely. Even though these are similar tactics that you heard, it's still a matter of getting that unique spin, doing things differently, and bringing out yourself in these things. So one of them is to use those yearly or holiday level related calendars so that you can schedule out for a whole year social, depending how you do it. You could do it by the month, by the week, by the month, by the quarter, by the year. But when it comes to holidays, you can pick from you can look at a whole year calendar and arrange some top of funnel social right from that. You can also have monthly or quarterly themes. So if you talk about core topics like social media, content marketing, and writing, those could be, and maybe one other one, those could each be a quarterly content pillar that you present in that way. So you have quarterly themes to help with your buckets. You can also work with promotional or specialty or push campaigns and schedule those as a separate bucket. Like those are like a different bucket. They're a little more business oriented or they're promotional in some way. They have a certain CTA, whatever it might be. Or you're looking to, bring people into a webinar or whatever new way you want to call it. And you can have, I think this is a good one, quotable strategies appropriate to your business. Lisa had a client that I'm aware of that was a leadership guy. And Lisa ended up coming up with a way to reach his audience by pulling quotes from his book. And it was really that quiet, soft selling that we talk about social being a marketing channel more than a sales channel in many ways, although that's changing. But the point is that he didn't have to sell the book. He just had to show, his bright commentary from the book to attract business. Lisa, you want to say anything about that with the quotable strategy or anything with these fun buckets?
Yes, that was a really a fun project because he wanted to, promote his book, but I didn't want to have the sell, sell, sell. So I created quotes with his a photo of him in some of the quotes, and we did some other type graphics around his branding. So it was definitely more of a soft sell.
And it actually got him surprising results because he was a client that wanted to, be more hands-on. And I think sometimes clients need to realize, hey, we just hired an expert, let them lead the way. And when he let Lisa take the lead, he really started getting huge results, which is, I think, super fab. And that's taking the quotable strategy that people do, pertaining to their business, but making it really personal if you use your own quotes. And for some of us, that would work. We have a lot of material we could work from. Then you can organize your key categories by main topics that you cover. Like I just said, if you cover social media, content marketing, web writing, or copy, or, whatever your main categories are, you can make buckets for those. And in this way, you get a splash of your topics and not, get stuck in one area.
Well, and that's a great way too to help you. You mentioned you're not old because if you're old and I'm old, we're seasoned, right? But for those of us who have had a varied career and who offer a number of different services because of our experience and our background, we don't necessarily have one niche. That's a great way to organize your content so it doesn't look overwhelming. And you can actually promote your services and showcase what you can do by using these content buckets. So it doesn't look like you're trying to be Walmart, because that doesn't really work for small businesses or creators or entrepreneurs on this level. So I think that's a great way to organize your content so that it looks more cohesive and people realize it's still all under, say, the marketing umbrella or whatever your overarching topic is for your business.
It's interesting because last night while I was working, just, kind of polishing what we were going to do today a little bit, I happened to catch Roberto Blake, who's a YouTube expert and coach and YouTube superstar, really. And he was talking about creating pillar contents for your YouTube channel. And nobody ever talks about pillar topics for YouTube. Everybody that I talk about when they want to talk about my, helping me with my YouTube are like, you have to have one topic, niche, 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 niche. And I'm like,
Exactly.
please, please, I can't. I do too many things for people and too many. Right? Look, writing is at the bottom of all your content. Like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, here's my perspective. Writers are your best friend because they're at the bottom of every type of content. But the thing what I'm trying to say is that I think that I think that
Mhm.
if I think and it validated it for Roberta to say it. I think that if you are like Lisa and Jamie and me and Michelle, I know you're the same way. I'm not sure about you, Foster or Carol, but we handle different projects for people. We're not a one bucket we're not a single niche thing. We do web copy, we do blog work and articles, we do ebooks and lead magnets, we ghostwrite marketing and email marketing. We, do other business ghostwriting for companies in every kind of topic. So, there's so many directions we can go, but you do want to keep it, as we know, for our blogs, for YouTube, apparently, and probably also for anything that you're sharing on social. You want to be clear about what your main topics or your core categories are, and use those buckets to help you stay organized, and also to make it like fair across the board, so you don't get stuck on like all you talk about is social because you really like it, but you do a lot of other things, and that's where your customer and your bread and butter is, and you're missing it. You're not giving it fair division of time. So here's what I think too. So how do we do this, right? So we have all these key categories. We want to showcase different content topics that are most important to our business. And we want to meet the 3 A's that we talked about with awareness, attraction, and attention. But how? So let's examine some popular content types and what kinds of top of funnel content we can create to make a big splash and use that mixed media content approach. So, one of the things is you can offer content and mixed media by experimenting with some of these. One would be create visuals only campaigns. Jamie and I both talked about seeing statistics where visuals are doing better than video. Everybody's pushing video on social channels, but it seems that still visuals or original photography or still images, I want to call them illustrations, still images, whatever, graphics, those are doing better than some of the video content that everybody's so highly pushing. I think today social media plus videos equals the social media marketing future, but for now visuals only are really getting, data wise, are improving, or getting the best performance. And oh, by the way, speaking of that, last week I mentioned HennekeD not only with the storytelling framework, but I mentioned HennekeD in terms of her embracing the new square size content for LinkedIn and using it to tell mini stories leading into her CTA. And I let her know that I did talk about her last week so that she was aware that I was sending some people her way. But also just to, let her know that I used her name in vain. I used to call her Heineken, like the beer, and she said both great German brands. But she said in result, she did give me some results. She said it feels like the story carousels and other carousels with a call to action at the end are working quite well for her. She also told me that she will have a link in the post and in her profile, so she makes sure there are different opportunities for people to connect. And she also mentioned this, and this is a great one if you're trying to do unique, and she does it, as we know, quite well. Her drawings, she says, seem to work quite well too, and so she's been using them, she says, more prominently. And now that she
Yeah.
mentioned it, maybe you guys noticed she's doing that more even on Twitter, with leading with the drawings. Those are unique to her and her blog. Those are her Henrietta, her cohort, sidekick, alter ego, and that is a great, unique way to stand out. Now, how can the rest of us come up with that?
It is. Actually, you said that. I just saw a post of hers earlier this morning, before we got on here. But yeah, I do love her drawings. But I've even seen myself and with clients with uh, carousel posts, even on Instagram as well, or leading with visuals, getting a great response from that. And that's not saying that, video, obviously video is important, but I don't think you need to forget everything else. People act like you don't need anything else other than video, but that's where you really have to understand your audience. And depending on what platform you're on, they may prefer visuals or a majority of visuals, depending on the stories that you're telling and how you're connecting with them. So don't get rid of everything else. Definitely incorporate video, but you don't have to go video only, I don't think.
I'm so glad to hear that because video, especially for people who don't who don't like to get in front of the camera so much, and writers who aren't, really video makers, that we're learning to be because we have to be. But there's other options and there's more things you can add to your mix, and the stills, the images do really well. I did some images for a client also that way, where I just put an image. I didn't even really have to do copy because the images had certain copy pertaining to his particular business. And they were kind of like just little clues about what he talks about his business. They got so much better social interaction and reaction, engagement, reach, all of it, than some of the more expansive sharing methods, where people are doing whole blog posts in their conversation on social, where they're trying to appease each platform. And that brings me to this question. Do you craft platform specific shares to give it more clout? I think you have to. I think you have to kind of get a go live or a staycation, I call it, because they want you to stay on their platform. Every one of them do. And let's face it, that's opposite of we want to bring people to us. But what
Right.
I think we have to do now is we have to, optimize and leverage, and maybe go ahead and submit to doing more platform specific sharing to get more clout.
I I have done some I first of all, I have created some content, like, say I write a blog article or something, and I might create a video series or different series to keep people on the platform so they don't have to go to the blog, because you're right, every platform wants people on the platform all day, which is the challenge. Um, but it's also tough to do when you say platform specific. You mentioned last week with Joey, like, so many of the platforms copy each other so extensively that I see a lot of people repurposing content across platforms, which makes sense. I do it for myself and with clients as well, um, because so many of them are so similar today.
They make it hard because they don't have a standard, I noticed. That's one thing.
Right. It's like, what is each platform like? They used to all be known for something, and now it's kind of blurry.
Well, here's the follow-up question then. So, do you like make a short and then share that short as a reel and as a story and whatever, or do you share it from an MP4 format, for example, rather than use the same one piece that you put up on YouTube on those other platforms, or the one piece you put up as a reel, whatever, wherever you start it, do you just share that, or do you actually, go back to a more organic from the MP4 rather than sharing a link, so to speak, to get better traction?
I do, if I can repurpose content, if that format is effective on another platform, I definitely do it to be efficient, both for myself and for clients, but I make sure that it fits that platform. It's irritating to me, and I don't know why, maybe it's just a pet peeve, when you see people copying and pasting or using the same content on multiple platforms, like people posting on X and saying, share in the comments or something. There aren't comments. Like, it's a different, at least make sure it makes sense on that platform. Like, you took this from Instagram and it's like, just it looks so obvious to me when people do that. But yeah, I definitely repurpose as long as the format fits. Um, I will repurpose the same content if it works. It's just I see so many people trying to repurpose content and cutting things off, or they're going through a third party software and don't realize it's cut in half or flipped upside down or something, and it looks so bad.
Spec, so you could share across platforms, but maybe that's the point. They want you each to perform only on their platform and not anyone to leave that platform. So there's techniques that people are using to strengthen that position. Things like writing and not just using a link and a visual, but really ultimately they're putting
Mhm.
that link in the comments to still drive that traffic back to themselves. So I'm back and forth because sometimes I think I don't care what the platform wants. Here's what I want and what I'm trying to, here's my goals and I have to work
Right.
towards that. And other times, I think,
Right.
well, you're kicking your own butt if you don't play their game. And then I think, well, who's working for who? I'm supplying their content. I don't know.
I think it's a balance. I agree. Like you can share tidbits and share pieces of information, but ultimately, you can link back to your blog in case they want to read the whole thing right now and comment on it.
What I don't want to see, and I do see, is people sort of, I'm going to call it, I don't know if this is the right word for this, but sort of pandering to the platform. So I see on LinkedIn people write these stories, they're trying to relate like their life to their
Right.
marketing or whatever. And some of them just seem so contrived and so like I'm just trying to do what the platform's making me do. And they don't sound enthusiastic or authentic, or they just appear straight up to me like they're playing the game of the
Right.
platform, and they don't, that doesn't attract me.
No.
I don't know. It's probably me, you guys.
No, I know it's scary when something starts trending and everyone tries to jump on it to the point that it doesn't fit at all. Um, it it's That's why I always be leery of twin. I mean, everybody wants to jump on things like that, and I get it. It can be a big hit, but make sure it fits. Make sure it makes sense for you to do it or how it ties into your business or something, because you're right, some of it does sound like they're desperately trying so hard and it just falls flat.
And here's the thing too. I think that what part of that lesson is that we should really pick our key platforms, our main platforms, and do really well at the ones that we know are where our audience hangs out and where we are gaining business results, and really, go hard on those key platform or platforms before we start worrying about pandering
Yes.
all about and trying to reach each platform's, own criteria versus thinking about our business and our customer criteria, right?
And it's so funny. It's so funny you say that because we give that advice, like, I've been giving that advice to clients for years, but isn't it hard to take our own advice? Like, it's been more recently that I'm actually taking my own advice and kinda cutting back and being very strategic and intentional about where I show up and where I take my own business to make sure that there's a purpose for it, and I'm not just trying to be everywhere, because I don't have infinite resources, being
And time,
especially
especially.
time, yes, which is your most important resource, so it's funny, like I said, I've been telling clients that for years, but I'm actually jumping up and taking my own advice now.
But also, I think it's true. I mean, even we've been doing this for a long time. I think everyone here, I'm not sure how long you've been doing it, Foster, because we've just met, but most of us here have been doing this for a long time. And it's funny because, well, for one thing, we're not paying as much attention to our own social as the clients that we handle. And even if we do writing and content marketing or blog writing or email marketing
Mhm.
for them, we're paying attention to that over our own social media projects, right? Our clients are always going to come first. But I think that, if we're stopping and thinking about this again, that's a good thing. And I think that there's a lot of ways to do it. Also, of course, highlighting happenings behind the scenes, showcasing events, showcasing your awards. These are good ways to put social out there that highlight you and do that soft sell and do that PR take. But
Right.
they give the opportunity for you to toot your own horn without tooting your own horn, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
so one thing though that Jaime does extremely well is she showcases, and I think I talk about other people and share what I learn from other people and credit other people for what I share and learn a lot. But what Jaime does that I think is really cool, and I know she does this as a Facebook campaign, she showcases other businesses
Yes.
and
Yeah.
shares curated content. really well. And in fact, I think when we first started being friends, you showcased my company on there. Now that I think of it, that's got to be years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I still look out for what are you sharing this week because you share all kinds of cool places.
It's fun, it's a twofold thing. I do a small business spotlight every Friday, typically every Friday, every once in a while it'll be Saturday. But I spotlight a fellow small business, and it could be locally, it could be somewhere I've traveled. One, selfishly, it's introduced me to a lot of fellow small businesses. I love meeting fellow small business owners and creators and entrepreneurs. But also, it builds your network. It helps you make new connections. You never know where that's going to lead, whether it's a possible, collaboration or partnership in the future. But it might give them a boost too. It's not like I have 50,000 people in my community, but hey, you never know who's going to see that, and it might introduce a new person or possible customer to that business. In fact, I just shared a we have a great live music scene in Akron, and I shared a show that a local music venue was having, and local person came on and asked a question about the show, and I went ahead and answered it because I knew the answer, and he ended up going to the show. So you never know where it's going to lead, but that's something that I've had a lot of fun with. I share other stuff on other platforms as well, but I've always been a big believer in that, and I do it with clients as well. And some of them are a little hesitant at first, but then they typically see the value of, people enjoy when you share their content. It really helps build community.
It's so community oriented is it's so community oriented. It can't help but build community and particularly in your local community because like you said, a lot of your businesses
Northeastern,
are
hey, it's
quite local.
close.
Yeah, we're closer than Art Lisa. We're up there way up north in Maine. Um, but another thing you can do is fire up user generated content campaigns where you do invite collaborations and partner projects. But let's talk about user generated campaigns for a second because one thing that we noticed and we talked about a little bit in our pre-planning was that there seems like there's a fine line between user generated content and
And
paid.
sponsored content. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That's where I think you need to be transparent. Like, sponsored content is good and it's here, and I think it's here to stay. It serves a lot of purposes. And I've consumed a lot of sponsored content, which I've enjoyed and found valuable. But when you're trying to pass it off as user generated, like, oh, this random person created this content about my brand, and then you find out they were actually paid for it. That's not user generated content. So just be transparent. But I am a big fan if people are engaging with your content or creating content, they like your product or your service or whatnot. It blows my mind how many companies don't engage with that or spotlight it, or it's such a obvious thing to me. I'm really big on that with my own business and with my clients. If someone's out here sharing your story for you or giving you kudos or talking you up, engage with that. Don't ignore them. Um, Spotlight them, share them to your stories, send them a thank you, whatever. Um, it's just mind blowing to me how many people don't engage with that at all. It's kind of like a golden opportunity.
That's exactly true. I couldn't agree more. I find that people forget to say thanks or to maybe share something of yours when you shared their stuff. I mean, there's some people I've been sharing their stuff for 10 years and I've yet to see them put a like on something of mine. And I feel like, geez, but I mean, not that you're sharing content to get noticed, but sometimes you are. Sometimes you're trying to reach to somebody above you.
Well, it's just human nature. You can't have a
Yes,
conversation with one
exactly.
person. It's like it goes back to the whole social media thing. It's not a conversation involves more than one
Yep.
person speaking.
Unless you're getting really
Um,
friendly with your
but
AI, like, and talk, I worry about that because people are talking to their AI, like, how are you today? Fine. What are you up to? Like, they're having conversations with AI as a friend. And I don't get it because that's not a human that that you're creating a relationship with. It's like completely fake, and yet you
Yeah.
like, what's the satisfaction? To me,
Yeah.
it seems crazy. But I think it's coming to that for people.
I think people need to remember to still get out there and get social in real life and have that interactive. I read an article and I'm blanking. I don't know if it was in the New York Times, but how we're more connected than ever. But there's this serious loneliness epidemic in our country because you see a lot of superficial connection. Somebody may be friends with you on Facebook. They're not actually your friend. You might not even know them. That's why it's still so important to have that social interaction, and to get out and actually socialize in real life and not just be surrounded by bots. And speaking of bots, the one point I wanted to make, I'm a big fan of curation. I do it a lot. Just be careful about what you share. Sue Ann and I were talking about this in our prep meeting. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm just a messenger." Anything, like, neither one of us share things that we don't consume first because we want to know what it says. So know what you're sharing. You're not, oh, you can share it to disagree with it. You can share it to add your own voice. But this is where you got to be careful just automating content to your feeds. Um, that something, if you have automated things set up, it may share an article or something that you don't want to share.
Yep. And everything that you put out there is a reflection of you.
Hmm.
And that, goes back to some of the other stuff we talked about last week too. Like, do you want to get political or not?
Yeah.
Maybe social justice is a cause, but maybe you don't want to go there and alienate half the possible customers that you may have.
Yeah.
So another way to actually use that way of showcasing yourself, along with, how we talked about other businesses, but showcasing yourself would be to fire up using what other people say. I love it because I have been so blessed with people saying nice things about me publicly on social comments. And like, sometimes I'm so surprised. Like, I got a comment recently that a woman said, "I read all of your stuff. I have been for years." I've never even noticed her as one of my followers on social feeds or anything. I've never noticed her share or retweet something so I could
Right.
interact with her. And yet she's like, "I've been
Hmm.
reading everything you write for years. I love your stuff." And it just
That's
blew me
awesome.
away. But she's saying it
Hmm.
publicly also.
Yes.
So, that really goes a long way. And sometimes I forget because I get messages on emails or DMs or, interaction on one platform that no one's going to see on most of my main platforms. Maybe sometimes you should pull that and highlight that as, maybe you make quotation cards like we did with famous quotes or with your quotes from your book or your content. Maybe you make one with customer remarks as another.
Testimonials, feedback.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we probably don't do that enough just because when you don't naturally toot your own horn, but it's important to get that out there. It is awesome when people give you feedback like that. One, it makes you feel good and feel more confident about what you're doing, but also share it because it's always so powerful when other people tell your story. You can talk about yourself all day, but when other people are saying how amazing you are, that's that's fantastic.
So that's another way. I'm a subscriber to Miss Eileen's newsletter, and on this same topic, she just popped back in. I noticed that she always mentions other people who interact on her like spaces, her live spaces. She always mentions other creators who, pipe in or speak up. She'll put their names in a link to them in her newsletter to share that community and build that community and introduce her community to other people they might want to connect with that are, in the same game, and that, building those relationships among like-minded and with each other. Also, because I think so much of Miss Eileen in her newsletter, I created a little video about her, and we've used it on the YouTube channel. And Lisa and I did a video about Ann Smarty when she launched her new business, Smarty Marketing, because we've been fans and friends with Ann and have actually hosted her. She used to do on X or Spaces or Twitter. Wait, on Twitter, what are they? Tweet what Twitter talks? I can't even remember.
Twitter chats.
Yeah, that's it.
Remember those?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, those were fantastic. I actually
Learned a lot,
guest
huh?
hosted that a
Met a
couple
lot
of
of
times,
people.
and I attended a lot of them because they were fantastic.
That might even be how you and I connected, James, is through.
It might have been. Now that you say that, I think it was.
And then Lisa, I know you like Ann's Twitter chats. Michelle, I'm not sure if I've seen you on that, but she, that was one of the first opportunities I had as a guest too. Was years ago. I've been on the show as a guest more than once, but one of the first times Ann offered me to be on, it was like a big deal for me. I was like really thrilled that she would ask me. So when she started her new agency, Lisa and I gave her a scream out on a blogging conversation we were having, a show we were doing, and then I made a video for her. And this is, building community, building relationships, sharing other people, and, having other people back and forth, toot your horn for each other, I guess. Again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all genuine. It's all, it's people you've connected with that you respect, that you can recognize everybody's skill set, and just trying to share that. Like I always try to make sure. And you mentioned about that the person who finally spoke up after, they've followed and consumed your content for years. That's why I always remind myself to actually say something, because so often we fall into that because the pace of life is so hectic today. Um, where we may love someone's content or something that they do and we just never say anything, right? And we can I actually had a client um follow me on social media for a year, never said a word. And then a year later came back and hired me. And they had never engaged with anything. So you never know who's watching. Yes.
Isn't this the beauty of social? And isn't this a testament to why some clients
Yes.
don't understand the long game of social and how social is happening in the background and you don't really have a way to measure it? It's
Yes.
that dark social where you can't follow that lead, that background. And I think that's something we're always trying to do. We're trying to prove ROI to ourselves and to our clients for doing social, but there's so much that's going on behind the scenes that you don't know that really comes from social.
Absolutely. I mean, so much of it goes back to the relationship building and building your community, which is invaluable today because that's what people want. But it's not always easy to put a dollar sign or a number on that.
Right. Or like you say, it might be a year later before the payoff comes, but that doesn't mean that every time you're posting isn't, helping towards that end.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So many other things. So I don't want to go too long, but to cover a couple things that we did want to talk about. Conversation starters are always great for tickling engagement, and we've talked about that, all of us, before. But I think that it's a good reminder to remember, like pose inviting questions to get people to interact. Miss Eileen does something that I love with creating polls. She's doing it on YouTube in the community tab, which, maybe most of us don't have the audience she has on YouTube, so it won't be as effective for us to be working that YouTube community tab. Although I try it, sometimes I get no response. But I think with time to build it up. But she does these polls. Some of them are business related, some of them are not. And people really love them. And it gives her an insight into what her users are attracted to or what appeals to them or what do they know or not know that she should cover. Because sometimes she'll ask a question like that a lot of times, in fact, she'll ask a question that pertains to the social platforms or how YouTube works or something about Amazon shopping where she's an expert. And, that gives her an idea of which way to head her content with how people react to these polls, even. Another one is to request advice or opinions from people. And another one, and this is an oldie but a goodie, and I think it still holds true because it's not the matter of what I'm going to say, but it's the matter of your original or unique spin. There's always leveraging those generally loved topics. And I'm going to give Lisa a shout out on this one because she'll do like photos on Twitter of, her walk today, and you'll see, where she's hanging out, and she'll get people to engage because they're showing, what they're doing right now. There's the time where she's like, check it out, I'm on this trail, and I'm like, check it out, I'm on the boat, and somebody else is like, check it out, I'm in the mountains today, and they're all putting a photo, and you're learning a little bit about your friends personally, and colleagues, and also interacting and showing it all on that outward facing social. So that's also a cool thing to do, because you want to level up relationship building, you want to meet key contacts. Now there's one more thing I want to talk about, because I just learned about this, you guys, and I'm always trying to learn new things and send it your way. And this was an interesting way to look at it. This is about, now we've all heard people say comment, do comments. Comments are really good for leveling up relationships and meeting contacts and key contacts. But how about the concept of leveraging or optimizing your commenting for credibility? Using it as one of those silent public relation type marketing tools. You're commenting. How does that work? So, this guy that I was listening to, and I'll have a link to him, but I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry, guy, that I learned this from. He says, demonstrate your expertise in comments. So when you're commenting, now everyone here knows I started in MedAllU through my thank you marketing campaign. I always say thank you. Thank you and politeness has, been an inroad for me to making friends and getting noticed. Just the word thank you, and thank you a lot. You know what I mean? But what about if instead of just saying thank you, I would say something more insightful, or I would give an example of how this worked with a client, or I would give a technique that is associated with whatever concept you're sharing or you're commenting on. In other words, go a little deeper so that people outside of your network, that person's network that you're commenting on, see your brilliance and your expertise from the comment, so that you're not just doing, those social niceties like I've been doing for many years, even though they're still nice to be polite, but go deeper. Comment purposefully,
Yeah.
in other words. Angie says not where you comment, but
Yes.
who. So look at who you want to engage with, who you want to work with, who you aspire to be like, and get those smart, engaging, purposeful comments with them.
Well, and I love that word purposefully, because it goes back to a lot of stuff we've talked about today. Like, everything you do should have intention. It's to make sure that you're spending your time, which is your most valuable resource, valuably, and making sure that you're seeing results from it in some manner, not necessarily a sale right away, but like you said, you can build up your credibility and expertise without doing a sales pitch. I think some people automatically want to launch into a sales pitch just because it's ingrained, but to share your knowledge, or to share.
Really the point is to initiate sales without selling.
Yes.
Right? Or without ads, or just by building relationships organically. And, letting that little bit of what people don't know about you, but you got this crazy great spark of, whatever talent, knowledge, insight, skill, and letting it kind of sneak out there,
Yeah.
nonchalant. Nonchalant advertising, we'll call it.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, I love this conversation today, guys. I hope you're enjoying it.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic. And thank you to everyone who's been on, and everyone, Lisa, for jumping in and sharing her insights. It's been fantastic. It's amazing how quickly that hour went by.
Lisa, do you have anything else you want to add? I know. If everyone doesn't mind, we could, if anyone has any question, want to come up and do it, we probably could throw, I don't mind staying if anyone wants to add anything. Lisa, what do you want to add before we cut out?
You. Yep, I'm back. No, I really love the conversation today about bringing other people and brands, mentioning them. I've been doing that more for my clients, but not so much for myself as I used to. So that's something I really want to get back into. So I really appreciate those tips.
I've seen some reactions throughout, so I think we're
And I really appreciate you guys coming and, being part of this discussion. I hope I'm going to do a little better this week on the audio. And I wanted to do something interactive. But before I go full out live streaming, I thought doing it with a conversation with audio would be more comfortable for myself and for you guys tuning in. Hi, Yasin. And we're just getting ready to wrap it up. So you're going to have to tune into the Marketing Mirror podcast later when I have the replay. But I thank you all for your time. I thank you all for your thoughtful comments and input. And I look forward to talking to everybody and learning more with this group and other people along the way, like we digital folks do. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Jaime. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everybody. My pleasure. It was a blast. Already looking forward to next week.
All right. Thanks. Everybody tune in, same time, same place, like Batman, next Wednesday, 2 o'clock. I'll talk to you then. Thanks.